What's up, brownies? I know you all have seen this video by now, and you've probably even seen some of the incredibly embarrassing back and forth that the so-called wife and mistress are having in a public forum online. So I'm not even going to bore you with all of that, but let's get to the root of the problem. First of all, let me just go ahead and say this. Listen, love who you want to love, date who you want to date, marry who you want to marry. But at some point in time, we're going to have a separate conversation about the internalized racism and colorism that goes into the fact that even when you choose to so-called jump the fence, you jump right into a pile of trash or the bottom shelf or the bottom of the barrel of another community. It doesn't have to be particularly attractive or high income earning, and they can still treat you like trash. But you'll give them a pass just because they're not black. Now let's move on. Let's talk about the fact that we need to stop calling other women home wreckers when your husband goes out and disrespects you down to your soul. Here's why I say that. I'm going to use the movie Fences as an example. If you recall, this man not only cheated on his wife, but also had a baby with another woman. And it was up to the woman to do all of this, go through this misery, and all of the women at church prayed for her and encouraged her to go back to her husband, who had this arrogant attitude like, yeah, you finally came to your senses, huh? As if a man has a right to do whatever he wants to do as long as he comes home, as long as you don't let the sun beat you home, or as long as you still putting food on the table or paying bills, and it's better to have a piece of a man than to have no man at all. All of these things that women of the older generation have taught us are absolutely false. And it encourages us to have a lack of self-worth. And not only that, other women who are male identified and indoctrinated with this toxicity can actually be harmful to other women. And I'll talk about this in a separate video, so go ahead and subscribe if you're interested in stuff like that. But here's my biggest problem. A basic Pretty Brown Rise principle is that balance equals righteousness, and anything that lacks balance will inevitably lead to chaos. Now, you'll see this with wives, period, but definitely wives and mothers. If a man can trap you into motherhood, you will be more likely to try to save a toxic marriage for the sake of the kids and for the sake of not wanting to be a single mother, no matter how little this man protects and provides. Meanwhile, you have the manosphere encouraging women to be submissive, to allow themselves to be mistreated in any old kind of way, telling you that you need to bend to men's will and do whatever a man tells you to just in order to get a man. And they're still raising their sons to be womanizers and telling young boys that your identity as a man is defined by how many women you can sleep with and or control. So likewise, it comes as no surprise as to when your terrible marriage falls apart, who you assign the title of home wrecker is another woman. Now, what you see scrolling in the background is a bunch of memes that I saw when I just did a simple Google image search for home wrecker. This is what comes up. A bunch of memes, not only blaming women, but also the mamas who raised them because your husband can't keep it in his pants. And women go right along with this. Let me tell you what you're doing when you do yourself this disservice. What you're doing is, by keeping the patriarchy in place and giving men all of this power over you, but not demanding that they be responsible with the power that they have, you're creating more of the same. You're continuously lowering yourself and other women and our value as women, when a lot of this stuff goes back to the Bible, right? Goes back to religion. But if you pay attention to that Bible, what you'll notice is almost immediately after God made man, he realized that he made a mistake and he made something that is insufficient. Okay, what he said was, you know what? It's not good for you to be alone. You're just not good enough. I need to make you a helpmeet, right? And yet we consider the the gender that cannot produce other life, that can't bring life forth itself as the more powerful and more valuable gender. That doesn't even make sense. But even outside of that, the point is, when you find a wife, you find a good thing. It says that it's not good for men to be alone, not that it's not good for women to be alone, which is why you all need to stop it. We're trying to shame other women for not having a man or not being married as if it is a bad thing. Let me tell you something, daughter. The number one reason why a lot of women don't want to get married is because of your husbands. First and foremost, we don't want your sad, miserable, crying in the prayer closet life. That's first of all. And secondly, what we don't want is the men. Nobody has ever pursued me as aggressively as married men do. And that even includes when I was underage. Your husbands act like they are being held captive or held against their will or something like that. And they just really need somebody to rescue them. They don't honor you and love you and value you. They don't even value their own health, nor yours. So you have to understand that somebody who's reckless enough or lacks enough self-discipline to actually be faithful, there's no way that when he's cheating, he's actually using a condom every time. So you're not only damaging your emotional and mental health, but also literally like your physical health by continuing to stay with a man who's cheating on you. And then you're encouraging more mistreatment by blaming yourself, blaming other women when a man cheats on them, or blaming the other woman or the mistress. Let me be clear. Nobody has more responsibility to keep a marriage together than those two people who are a part of the marriage. And all of these questions as to whether or not the woman knew, did you know he was married? Girl, your husband knew he was married. He was at the ceremony and he signed the contract. So there's nothing that you can tell me that holds another woman more responsible than the actual people who are within a marriage for a marriage falling apart. But y'all have to start holding your husbands accountable. And even if you already know that you're not going to leave them, child, quiet as it's kept, Mama Evelyn said, if you know you ain't gonna leave him, then let a man cheat in peace. Honestly, I don't agree. I don't disagree with that. I mean, what's all the cap for? You know you ain't going nowhere. You know you're a male-identified pick-me. You're trying to use, societal norms or the fact that you have children as an excuse. But the real deal is you lack your own self-worth and self-esteem. So if you're going to stay in your marriage anyway, just go ahead and stay in the marriage. But please, leave the rest of us out of your mess. We don't need to know about it or hear about it. And really, all you're doing is embarrassing yourself. When the truth of the matter is, who deserves to be embarrassed in a situation where you can't practice enough self-control to be faithful to your spouse is the cheater, which more often than not is going to be y'all pitiful husbands. Message.